Hey guys, so I thought I'd take you along for the daily chores today. We're feeding the chickens, gonna be moving the sheep today. This is our small coop. We've only got 2 chickens over here. This is the one that we keep close to the house. Mostly because it's not the best coop, it doesn't move around well. So it's just easier to keep it close and keep an eye on it. There's their feed. They just eat off the ground. It's convenient and easy. And we'll head up to the field where we put it into feeders because there's a lot more chickens and they don't always get to it all. Yeah. So I'm making my way up to the A-frames for our chickens up on the hill. They're coming up close to the sheep now, and the plan's always been to get them running right behind the sheep, to scratch up the sheep poop and spread that, eat the flies and the larvae that are growing on the poop, and just reduce the amount of pests we have on the property. This will also help to fertilize the soil better because it'll work the fertilizer into the dirt. So there's the sheep down there behind me, and here's our A-frames, and I feed them, and a little later today we'll be moving the sheep. They're actually doing okay on feed. Let me shake that down a little. There we go. Yeah, there's still lots of grass in here. And we're gonna move them this evening. We always wait until they're up top on the boards and the hardware cloth. That way when I move it, there's no risk of hurting them because they're all just coming along for the ride rather than having to run to keep up. But we move them frequently enough, especially now that we've got rain again. Now, this is right behind them where they were last night. They're never on dirt. They're on grass because we move them before they can wear all the grass out. During the drought, there was a couple days where it started to get more exposed dirt, but generally they just thinned the grass a little bit. And you can see right ahead is the sheep pen. So we're moving the sheep today, and in about a week we'll probably be pulling the chickens right into the space there where the sheep were. And they're going to be following about a week behind from now on, cleaning up the mess from the sheep. That way it'll improve the field better and keep down the parasites for both the chickens and the sheep. Now this coop still needs a little bit of paint. Let's see if I can open this without dropping everything. So all of our chickens are essentially just kind of barnyard mixes. We've tried doing some purebred lines here and there, but none of them have stuck yet. I like Wyandottes and I like Australorps. And we have a few Australorps and one Wyandotte, but we keep losing them. And I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Sometimes it looks like it's drought. A lot of the times it's the raccoons have gotten into them or whatever else. So I guess it's just bad luck. But it always seems to be our more expensive purebreds. So right now we're working with what we have, which is mixed breeds. But the mixed breeds tend to produce poor quality meat, and they don't lay quite as often as the 2 breeds I mentioned. Those are specifically bred for mixed use of getting a lot of meat and producing eggs up to 5 times a week. So because we move the chickens at night and they're asleep up top, they don't actually get on the grass till first thing in the morning. And typically I'll feed them about midday because I want them eating that grass and the seeds in the grass, whatever bugs they can find in the grass. I want them focusing on the locally available edibles before we give them any grain. I hope that encourages them to work the soil more and to eat any grasshoppers and pests that might be out here first when the bugs are more active also. And then I'll bring out the food typically around noon or a little bit after. And so that's a great time to collect eggs also because they've been laying all morning. Come in here, we keep a couple fake eggs just to kind of remind them where we want them to lay. And I'll just, after I've fed them, I'll grab the eggs. We'll dump them in the feed bucket right on top of the feed. It's a nice soft place for them to sit so they don't crack. And I can carry them back, no problem. And then in the evening, about sunset or a little after, if I work it right, if this daily schedule works well, I'm out here right at sunset where I still have light, but they've all climbed up to go to sleep. And I'll move the coops. Quite often though, it'll wind up being an hour or two later, especially now that days are getting shorter. And I'll be working in the dark with a flashlight so I can see what I'm doing as I just pull them forward that last little bit. One of these days when I get out here at sunset and there's some light, I'll try to show you guys the process. We'll see if that's on this video or if that's on another one. All right, I'm reeling up the sheep fencing here. My son is back there filling the water, or he's cleaning the water so that we can fill it up in the new location. And as soon as he's done cleaning, he's gonna come over here and get the sheep on some halters so they don't run off once the fence is down. And we'll break down the shelter, move it, reset up all of this. Just over there by the Energizer and that little red wagon, we'll set them up on the other side of that fence line. So they're moving just the width of their paddock from one spot to the next. We're just moving them a little less often. We're moving them about every 4 days because the process for breaking all this down and moving it takes a lot longer than moving the A-frames for the chickens. I'm hoping to get the breakdown and moving process down to about 10 minutes, and then maybe we'll be able to start doing this daily. You might see there's plenty of grass here. We've gotten to where the rain falls, meaning that grass grows plenty faster than the sheep, but the manure load builds up whether you have grass growing or not. And you don't want your sheep sitting on the same manure for too long or they're more likely to get sick. So 4 to 5 days is about as far as I like to push it, but I'd like to get it down to 1 or 2. And to do that, we got to get the fence and shelter system a lot more efficient so that we can get them moved and not take up every day just moving the sheep. So, but we're working on it now. I've got a couple passes down. We're down to just 2 strands instead of the 4. But really 1 strand is enough to hold the sheep under normal circumstances. But if something frightens them, they might jump it. And it's certainly not going to stop a dog. Even the 4 strands isn't a guarantee against a dog or a coyote. So I need to get something else out here, like a guardian dog or something eventually. But for now, we're just trying to keep a close eye on it and keep a good tight fence so that anything that does find them is discouraged by the shock and doesn't want to mess with them. So I'll try to give you some updates as I go. We're just getting started so far. So here's the shorter stake of our shade cloth. This one's just got a nail going through a hole in some rebar. that I drilled and ran through to lock it in place. Take that out and it just pops right off. The other is just a much longer piece of rebar. I've got these clips. I was using this on the other one, but the sheep like to rub on these posts, and that other one's low enough, they popped it loose, rubbing on it, and I lost the clip somewhere in the field. So I had to make up a new one. That's why we got the nail.
Daddy, you can use my handle.
And then this one, because it's up and out of the way on a much more permanent structure, we're actually using a clip and an eye loop. Just leave that there. Shade cloth is loose. We'll pull that over, reset the rebars, and be able to run this whole system over. And then I just take this rope here, clip it onto that eye bolt there, and the eye bolt over here, and pull the whole shelter all the way over there, about where my son is. And that'll be inside the new paddock. And then we'll finish running the fence around. I've got the posts over there, but if I put up the fence, we wouldn't be able to move the shelter. So you got to keep it all in order. All right, here we are moved. This is where they were. Yeah, there's still plenty of grass, just a little trampled. There's certainly manure in here. And then you come over here, it's significantly greener. Not trampled at all, no manure. And the idea is to just keep them on green, lush grass. But there's still a lot of gaps between the grass. It's all one type of grass. So it's not the most nutritious meal for them. So until we get our field's health up, we're going to be feeding them some alfalfa hay to just give them some extra protein, extra nutrition. And we'll be giving them mineral supplements soon too. We haven't had a chance to source a good variety of minerals yet, so we've just been relying on what's in the field and in the alfalfa so far. But we are aware that they're going to need some minerals, and we're working on that. They are quite happy about the alfalfa. We give them this just when we move them to help keep them excited about the move. Mostly they just eat grass. You know, their favorite food is grass. They're really not adapted for eating oats and seeds. They eat a little bit as they're eating the grass, but that's it. And you guys are in luck. I finished up the sheep kind of right at sunset. So if we come up here, trying not to blind you guys with the sunset, but most of my chickens, well, actually no, they haven't, but they're starting to think about it, and here in the next couple minutes they're all going to start jumping up, and I'll be able to come over here and show you how I'm going to move these, because I got a minute. I'm already out here. Won't be an issue. I'll just sit here and wait for them to jump up, and then we'll start this up again. All right, it looks like they're all starting to jump up. I got a couple still hanging out down here. We got 2 on the ground in here, but I need to pull out the food and the water because they don't move with it. Once I get them moved, I'll put those back in. Yeah, they're all curious what I'm doing, so they're coming down to investigate. If I give them another couple minutes, they'll jump right back up though. But I've gone through, I've pulled all my feeders and waterers out. I've got a different kind of waterer in this middle one, and it hangs, so that one actually will travel with the coop. I need to figure out how to get these hung up too. Maybe a wide hook or 2 hooks. Once I get all that hung up, then I won't have to pull out the feeders and waterers, and it'll just be pull it. But got this rope that I hooked onto the eye bolts on here, just like with the sheep shelter, and wrap the rope around my shoulders and just back up with it, and the whole thing comes along. Just a second, when the chickens jump back up, I'll show you how that works and put the feeder and water back in. Could you see? You just hook the rope onto the eye bolts. There we go.
I don't want to eat off
Put
it.
this back in. That's it. But that's all there is to it. You just move them 3 times in a row, and I'm done. And the idea is to get the sheep. Probably won't ever be that easy, but something close to it, so that we can move the sheep every day also. And we'll just move them around over and over again and get them back to the same spot eventually to keep the grass down, but also to keep them off of the manure. And ideally, this will just start greening up the field and get everything looking great. We'll get plenty of eggs and big healthy chickens. I'm not a big fan of broiler chickens specifically for meat. I'm kind of hoping to eventually get to the point where we've got so many egg layers that we can butcher whatever chickens we need to from our egg layers for our meat source. And we'll just run egg layers and let them live for a couple of years before being butchered, rather than 4 months like people typically do with broilers. Significantly less than that with some breeds. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.